What is going on, everybody? Zach RC here. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome along to episode number 52 of the F1 Ultimate Career Series and the start of season number 4. If you guys did miss the last season or any of the first 3 seasons, make sure to go check those out before you see this to get this episode on the way. And of course, as always, make sure to get subscribed for more future F1 content as the series continues on. So, season 3 2022 is now over. And of course, as we always do, have a quick look around the hub. And of course, a recap of last season's final standings before we have a look at going on to the next game. Of course, we ended the season as the top team in terms of R&D and obviously won the Drivers' Championship. So spoilers if those of you who haven't seen the season finale of Season 3, the last episode. So obviously beat Verstappen for the title, but Red Bull won the Constructors. So of course the aim will be to try and get that Constructors title for ourselves for the first time. Also try and defend our World Championship as well. There's our results from last season. Of course the lowest finish being that 12th place at Imola. Of course 5 wins across the year. Not at all a bad season. I'd say definitely a championship worthy campaign. But now obviously it's time to get on to F1 23. And of course in terms of our next team, we'll be re-signing with Mercedes. So no movement this time around. I did put a poll out over the course of the week, and you guys decided you want me to stay at Mercedes instead of moving over to McLaren, so we'll keep with the Silver Arrows for one more season here. But in terms of Season 5, I'll stick with the approaches there. But now it's time to go to F1 23 and start making up our character as always and get ready for this new season of racing. So it'll be very, very exciting. Of course, F1 23 set to sort of get rid of all the issues that F1 22 had in terms of handling, that sort of thing. So it'll be quite a transition getting over to the new handling model and that sort of thing as well. So we'll see how that impacts us over the course of the season, and of course we'll see if we can indeed defend that championship with the Mercedes against the RB19 being dominant, because there's the poll from the week. And of course you see that it was a wide open poll there, but the open decision in the end was to stay at Mercedes and partner Lewis Hamilton once again. So Russell again unfortunately stays off the F1 grid until at least next season. So Hamilton comes in as our teammate once more, and that's more or less all we need to do in terms of setup. So head now to the Team Hub and get the season underway in terms of our opening upgrades, that sort of thing. Before we do that though, let's have a look at the calendar for the season. So start off in Bahrain, missing off Saudi Arabia, going to Australia, then to Azerbaijan, sprint race there, Miami, heading over back to Monaco for the first time since season 2, and then over to Austria. Our home race at Silverstone, and the halfway point of the season will be at Belgium and Spa. Zandvoort marks round 9, then it's Monza for round 10, followed by Singapore, Japan, our first race in Qatar, missing off Texas, Mexico there, missing off Brazil, the new race in Las Vegas, and the finale of course in Abu Dhabi. So that is the calendar, and we are now in the Team Hub and getting set for the car reveal for the first race of the season in Bahrain. It promises to be very exciting. Of course, opening upgrades with the 4th fastest team on the blocks here. Red Bull fastest by a long way, Ferrari second, Aston Martin the shock 3rd place after scoring no points last season, and we sit in 4th place. The early upgrades then on aero, chassis and durability, so the first ones on the board there to try and help us jump Aston, if we can Ferrari as well in terms of R&D, but Ferrari have actually got a bit of a lead there, so work to do is try and catch those guys, and of course a lot of work to do is try and catch Red Bull. In terms of driver perks then, we use the 1 perk on development feedback, so we use that for the first half of the season, and when we re-sign later on, use the one towards power mapping as well. But that's more or less what we need to do in terms of opening stuff here, so advance time and get set for the car reveal. I'm looking forward to seeing the number 1 on our race car for the first time. So without further ado, then it's time to look at the car we'll be defending our World Championship with. Time for our first look at the Mercedes W14. There it is then, the Mercedes W14, the car of which will defend our World Championship. Of course, car review out of the way, and it's now time to get those crucial last few days in before the race in Bahrain. Of course, our upgrades all coming through without any issue. Weekly resources in as well. I've turned down the resource point, how much are distributed between teams, so hopefully the upgrades should be a bit slower over the course of the season, make things a bit closer, make a bit more of a work to close up to Red Bull, because I noticed it was quite fast, our development over the course of last season. In fact, we actually aired through the fastest team towards the end. So upgrades on the aero and powertrain departments there. We jump Aston Martin, so we'll go to the first race as the 3rd fastest team. McLaren down there in 5th, work to do for AlphaTauri at the very bottom. Without further ado, it's time to head over to Bahrain and get the first race weekend of the season underway. Qualifying then is set to get underway here in Bahrain for the first race of 2023. Of course, we stand there in our garage as the reigning Drivers' World Champion. So a lot to live up to over the course of the season. Of course, a lot of work to do to try and defend our title. Red Bull looked particularly strong. The RB19, as we saw, was a world beater in real life in 2023. So our job is to try and topple Verstappen. Driving that is going to be a very, very tough task indeed. But of course, the first steps towards the title begin in qualifying in Bahrain. As one of the Ferraris is one of the first cars out onto the racetrack, not sure if that's Leclerc or Sainz. But of course, Ferrari will be licking their wounds after their strong start last season, only to be denied in the Drivers and Constructors Championships. Of course, Carlos Sainz was their main challenge there. It's Sainz who's the first car out to the circuit. We come through in second behind him, but he backs off and gives us the room, so we'll be the first car to come through and set a lap for this season around the Bahrain International Circuit. I must say the game looks a lot different on F1 23 compared to 22. The advancements in the graphics look fantastic. Onto our first flying lap, then charging down towards that first corner. Of course, very tight turn one. I've got to get used in terms of the handling model, in terms of the braking points, to try to learn those again. But going way too deep there into the first corner, running wide off our line. So again, work to be done in terms of readapting to this game. And obviously, I think that'll be the main task for this first episode, as well as trying to get a good result. We've got to try and make sure we're back acquainted with this game, because of course it's significantly different to what we had to deal with in F1 22. But into turn 4, same thing again, then running way too wide off our line and losing a tenth or two there. Coming through the first sector to complete our first one, it's 29.6 on our first lap. Work to be done then. Not a fantastic start to the lap at all. Imagine Sainz behind us to go a lot faster. Off the last corner to complete our first lap of the season then. It looks to be a 1:31 as we come towards the line. Confirm that 1:31.6. And Sainz is behind us with 1:30.9. So Sainz isn't even the fastest car, and he is there 7 tenths in front of us. So I dread to think what our position on the leaderboard looked like after our first lap. So Hamilton 1:30.6 goes faster himself, so works compared to our own teammate. But of course, improvements we found there in turns 1, 2 and 3. So we can find some time there without doubt. Of course, up at turn 4 as well. Sector 1, perhaps our biggest weakness. Down to P13 here, so not a fantastic start compared to the cars around us. Norris there P5, see Oscar Piastri making his F1 debut there in P8. But coming on to our last lap now, hit into the first sector. Once again, it'll be a 28.8, so actually it's a purple first sector. So we've actually gone for a decent lap here. We're up by 9 tenths already as we come down through towards turn number 8 on the circuit. As we make our way through sector 2, back up the hill again for turns 9 and 10. The checker flag has fallen, so this will be our last lap of the session. Without doubt, heading down towards turns 9 and 10. Now I try and nail the braking point there. A bit better there in terms of compared to turn 1 in the first lap, but running a bit too deep on the curb and off onto the outside curb as a result. So we've lost a couple tenths as a result. So all our hard work in sector 1 out the window then. So off the last corner then, 7 tenths improvement, charging towards the line to complete our first qualifying session of the season. P13 now, and in terms of starting spot, it will be P7. Not fantastic, not awful, given how close the car's going to be this season. I'm honestly not surprised.
And with qualifying complete, let's review our top 3 today. Verstappen, Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton. Goodbye for now then, but really we're just getting started. Make sure to join us again for Lights Out tomorrow.
So Verstappen then takes pole, Leclerc second, Hamilton third. We qualify P7. Of course, number of cars could spring a surprise there. Perez fourth, Norris fifth, Sainz sixth, Alonso in 8th place. Piastri could spring a surprise on his debut from 9th, and Ocon complete your top 10. So it's time now to tend to the first race of the season. Time for the Bahrain Grand Prix.
No more testing, no more practice. This is the real deal, and it's make or break here at round 1 of this year's Formula One World Championship. Formula One returns to the desert today on this exceptional 3.36 mile circuit. 15 corners provide plenty of overtaking opportunities, and it could be a strategic race, this one, with Sakhir notorious for eating up the rear tyres. Watch out for drivers managing their rubber at some point during the Grand Prix. It's time to see how our drivers are stacking up after yesterday's exciting qualifying session. World champion Max Verstappen starts from pole position, and it's Charles Leclerc in P2. As we continue through the rest of the grid today, we have Hamilton, Perez, Norris, Cohen, Fernando Alonso, Oscar Piastri, Ocon, Gasly, Magnussen, Stroll, Albon, Ricciardo, Tsunoda, Sainz, Joe, Bottas, Hülkenberg and Logan Sargent. It's almost time for those 5 red lights to go out then. Let's see who can prevail today. A new season then, a clean slate where anything could happen. Anthony Davidson is with me today as once again we get another year of Formula One underway.
We're into those tense few minutes before the first race then. Everyone's a little bit nervous about reliability. They haven't been running in the hot, turbulent wake of other cars in practice. And they've not been pushing at 100% for long durations. Let's hope no one has to deal with any nasty surprises.
Here we go then, no more talking, time for action for the Bahrain Grand Prix, the first race of the season and the first race of our World Championship defence from P6 on the grid. Sainz took a penalty before the race. So in terms of strategy for this thing then, softs to mediums. In memory, this isn't a fantastic idea in terms of strategy, but I don't want to run that risk of being too slow in the first stint and have to make it back up on the soft tyres towards the end. So we'll stick to how it is for now, just for this first race. We'll trust the engineers and see what the game plan is from there on out. It looks a bit about a tenth faster than the medium, so I have to see in terms of what the game plan is there.
Here we go then, the formation lap gets underway and the excitement here is building as we near ever closer to the start of the race. Which team will come out on top? Who's got their strategies right for today's race? Well, we'll soon find out.
I feel we might have got it wrong. Verstappen starts on pole, he's on the soft tyres, we're on the softs too. Sainz goes for it as well, but everyone else starting on mediums. Have we made the wrong choice?
So as all the cars take their positions on the grid, the teams will be hoping their strategies pay off for them in today's race. The question I'm asking is which teams have got it right, which ones have got it horribly wrong?
Questions then to be answered in the first race of 2023. Can Verstappen get his hands on the World Championship? Will we defend it for ourselves? McLaren and Aston Martin, could they be contenders over the course of the year? Is Alonso a contender as Aston Martin? Will Piastri have a good first season? It's all a lot of questions to see the number one on our Mercedes. Will we keep that number on our car for 2024? The questions will all start to be answered here as the last few cars take their spots on the starting grid to get the first race of the season underway and to get season 4 of Ultimate Career underway as well. Lights are coming on here in Bahrain. Verstappen and Leclerc on the front row to get season 4 of Ultimate Career underway. It's lights out, foot to the floor. Go, go, go. Decent start there over Norris and Perez in front of us. Down to go thread the needle towards turn 1. Up 2 places here. This could be a fantastic start. Leclerc shuts the door though. Going to try the inside into the first corner, backing out of it. Norris gets back on the outside, but that could have been a mega start in the first 2 corners. Up to P4 already, tapping Norris' side pod there. Going through turn 1, but no warning for a collision. Not going to get away with that. Around the outside of Leclerc out of turn 3 and up towards turn 4 here. What a getaway this has been. We never saw starts this good in F1 22. Around the outside of Leclerc at turn 4. Can we try and get a job done in the Monegasque on corner exit off of turn 4? Yes, we can. Leclerc falls away. P6 to P3 then in the opening advantage bits. Verstappen who leads Hamilton, and we now sit on the podium in 3rd place for the first time today. So fantastic start there. I'll try and build on that, try and chase down our teammate in the opening couple of laps of this race on this first stint. On to lap number 2 now, and again Hamilton about half a second in front of us. Verstappen is checked out, 1.9 clear already. So that, I said that RB19 is a fantastic machine, so it could be tough to beat. Yellow flag behind us out of turn 4. Looks like one of the Alpha Tauris has got a problem of some kind. Looks to be Yuki Tsunoda. Have a look at the replay of what's actually happened to the Japanese driver. He's chasing Carlos Sainz, of course, had that penalty. Running on board with me out of the corner, he just overcooks it and spins out. So lucky, no damage done for Yuki's car early on. See Ricciardo there in the other Alpha Tauri, of course, made that move over to McLaren from McLaren for this new season. But Yuki gets the car going again, no damage done, but a lot of work to do from to try and close that gap back down to his teammate, to the rest of the pack. On to lap number 4 now, and still chasing Lewis. DRS is in deploy here, but Leclerc about a second back from us, so not giving us too much trouble right now. Yellow flag again down at turn number 8. Let's see one of the Williams cars this time. Virtual safety car's been deployed, so early on, that's definitely a big one. Fortunate for us, it's not a full safety car, because that could seriously jeopardise our first stint. But what's happened down there? It looks to be one of the Williams cars, and looks like Snowden's had a piece of it too. So it's Logan Sargent, of course, making his F1 debut today as he makes his way through turn 8. Same thing as Yuki, just spins out, overcooks the revs, and goes for a ride again. So it continues on from there, because as he's turning the car around, Snowden comes in and actually breaks his front wing off on Sargent Williams, shunts him off of the racetrack. So Sargent gets going again. Not sure if I imagine he's got damage too, but Yuki's come off worse as a result of that, and as a result there was debris on the racetrack. That's why we've got the VSC. So VSC to an end now, lap 5, and we're right behind Hamilton again. Verstappen now 3.6 in front, so a massive advantage for the Dutchman in the early stages of this race as Tsunoda and Sargent both pitting early on as we pushed on towards turn 8 once again. And look, let's try and build a run here if we can on Lewis going out to turn number 10 to, of course, have a run up with him on DRS towards 11, but closing all the time. Even with those soft tyres on, we're struggling here. We're getting closer and closer, but keep struggling to keep up, especially on corner exit. See us sliding there, trying to pull away, and Lewis once again builds that advantage. We have to stay where we are in P3, and Leclerc and Norris closing a little bit here. On to lap 6, Lewis about second in front. Yellow flag again behind us. What's going on in this Grand Prix? Running wide out of turn 7, Leclerc on our tail now as we got off our line for 8, and on corner exit trying to pull away as best we can on those soft tyres. It's starting to wear out a little bit. It's Lando Norris got from Lawrence is out of the race here, so our first retiree of the season now is Lando Norris in the McLaren, who of course failed to finish this race last year too. So a bad streak for Norris continues here in Bahrain. He can't catch a break at this circuit. Perez goes through, Alonso goes through as well. You see Leclerc trying to challenge us going through turn 8. Norris had to pull the car over, and after 6 laps, his Bahrain Grand Prix is finished, which leaves Oscar Piastri as the lone McLaren on the circuit. So work to be done for the guys in Papaya to try and get themselves to the end of this Grand Prix with Piastri. But in terms of our race though, on to lap number 8 now, and Charles Leclerc closing down the main straight going towards turn 1. Good run from the Ferrari. He's going to pull to the inside of the racetrack going towards the braking zone of turn 1. He's going to pull clear, going to try and get back at him on the outside going into turn 1. Perez being chased by Alonso. We're still alongside Leclerc, making our way through turns 1 and 2, sliding there. Leclerc gets back in front, so P3 now for the Monegasque, but coming try and get him back. Another DRS zone in play, going down towards turn number 4 now. So closing now, making our move on Leclerc. Going to pull to the outside of the racetrack, try and bring to the inside, then switch back out. out. But on the outside, can't make it work. Try the inside if we can. Trying to switch back, but Leclerc is too fast. So P3 in possession now. We sit in P4. And with that, Perez and Alonso are starting to catch up to us now. So let's try and get around Leclerc as quickly as we can. Going wide, massively wide there at the exit at turn 7. But keeping the car under control just. We see that we're starting to struggle on these soft tyres because we're starting to wear out a fair bit faster compared to the mediums. It's pushed on towards lap number 12 now. Our pit window opening, but Perez is on our tail. Leclerc 2 seconds in front, so no DRS for us. And Alonso not far behind either. Perez on the left-hand side goes through, takes P4 away. Can we try and get him back going towards turn 1? Can't for the minute, not going to try and run that risk of diving to the inside of the very tight left-right hander that is turn 1. See the orange tyre light is on our MFD now, so as a result, I have to pit this time. Look at that, 60% on the rears. Bahrain notorious, as Crofty said, for eating up the rear tyres over the course of a race distance. So coming out to the last corners now to complete our first stint end at lap number 12, and of course pitting onto the mediums. But could that also be a death knell given how quickly the softs have worn off here? Alonso followed our toe going towards the pit lane, but we'll come in by ourselves here for our first pit stop of the season. Unfortunately, I didn't clock that my manual pit stop button was wrong, so I didn't actually race to the input. So unfortunately, it's a late pit stop. The first time I've ever seen that in this series. A late turn in 3.1 second stop, and hopefully the worst stop of the season. The last time we'll see that over the course of this season. So potentially a lot of time lost there to make our way towards pit exit. We'll come out as the last of the running cars. Sainz in the back, he's made his stop already. Of course, Sainz fighting back from that penalty he took before the start of the race. And that is Daniel Ricciardo there in front of me. Tsunoda and Sargent a long way back from us as we make our way out towards turn 1 once again as we push through and continue on to our second stint now on these medium tyres. I have to try and work on chasing down Sainz and Ricciardo over the course of this lap. If we're lucky, Ricciardo will hold Sainz up, and as a result we can try and close in. He's doing just that on end of number 13 now. Sainz on the inside of Ricciardo, trying to fight his way through. Can we get around both cars towards turn 1 potentially? Can have some batches to play around with, but DRS to our advantage on Sainz, of course, the big player there. Closing on Ricciardo, going towards turn 1, lap 14 gets underway. Ricciardo dives to the middle, trying to protect the middle lane. We go to the outside of the racetrack, going towards that first corner. Not worth a dive on Sainz. We'll try and focus on getting around Ricciardo for now. On the outside of him, going through turn 1, with the inside for turn number 2, and putting away. That's P15 now in our possession. Max in the pit lane, so up to P15 now, and Sainz in P14. Leclerc 2.8 in front of us, so on those hard tyres. So we're on the softer tyre compared to Leclerc and the cars around us, but obviously that will wear off towards the end of the Grand Prix. But Sainz is our next target though, onto lap 14, diving to the inside at turn 11 there. Audacious move on Sainz on the soft tyres. We've made it work. I'm up into P14 now as Lewis comes to the pit lane for his stop, and we'll see we're about to emerge compared to everyone else. Let's make our way down the main straight here. Lewis is away, obviously he was in second place by quite a distance, but Leclerc, Perez and Alonso are our main concerns right now, and there is Perez and Alonso on our right. Obviously Leclerc gets out in front, but you see Guan Yu Zhou's there in front of him in the Alfa Romeo, holding Leclerc up as Ricciardo did the sign. So it'll be a bit of luck on this lap when Leclerc could find himself facing the same fate. Yes, there he is. So right there, we get about 2 seconds or so on this lap coming through turn at number 13. Might try and get around both cars this time if we can, because Leclerc hasn't made that move on Zhou just yet. He might go for it here though. Might try the inside. Zhou defends underneath. Leclerc goes outside, going towards that last corner of the circuit. Perez not too far behind us either, and there is Sainz further back too, into the last 2 corners of the circuit. Then Zhou gets passed by Leclerc on the outside. We'll try and wrestle our way through ourselves. Zhou gets out of shape, pulls into the pit lane though to complete his first stint. It'll be us versus Leclerc now for third place in the running order on lap 16 and going towards turn 1 once again. The last car's coming in. Leclerc now outright in third place. Can we take it from him going towards the first corner? He's going to dive to the inside of the Monegasque into towards the first turn. Leclerc just gives us the space. We're going to squeeze in there and on the outside take P3 back from Charles Leclerc. So the strategy's worked out for now, but of course those medium tyres will start to wear a lot faster than their hard tyres will, as Perez tries to challenge Leclerc going towards turn 4. On to lap 17 now, and Perez has dispatched Charles, and we're now trying to go for us. We're going off our line there at turn 14. Perez is on the inside for a second. Let's try and clear him as best we can here, but Perez will be right on our tail now with DRS to boot. He goes to the outside of the racetrack there, onto lap 18 now, nearing the last 10 laps of the race. Perez goes dancing through, takes P3 for himself. Leclerc behind us as well. They're trying to make the same move we did on Leclerc going towards turn 1 now, diving to the inside of Perez into that first corner. Again, he gives us that bit of space. We pick the lock and squeeze through once again to P3 again in our possession, but I don't think we can do that too much longer here because those two are still very racy and got a lot more grip on their tyres than we do ours. As Leclerc gets back around Perez himself here, so it's back to how we were 2 laps ago. Leclerc now in P4, so we try and hunt him, he's going to try and hunt us down rather, for third place as Hamilton and Verstappen continue to pull away by themselves. Onto lap 19, Leclerc to the inside now and dancing past us with very little effort. That DRS working wonders for that Ferrari. And into turn 1, Leclerc gets us. They'll try and dive to the outside if we can this time, but running wide as a result. Perez pulls alongside us, and that could be the end of the matter in terms of third place. Charles is pulling away. He's got a decent advantage on us already. We'll try and use DRS, but it's a futile effort. Leclerc is checking out already. We can try and keep with him as best we can here, but he managed to get away massively. And onto lap 27 now. Only a few laps left to go in this Grand Prix. We're left to fend off Perez for 4th place. And our tyres are starting to wear now. Perez isn't quite done yet. You see Piastri doing P6 doing a fantastic job for McLaren. He leaves the train behind us as Alonso has problems. 2 laps to go in Bahrain, and Perez closing that gap at a rate of knots here as he charges towards turn 1. Going to try and cover the inside if we can, but Perez gets there first. The Mexican darting inside and taking P4 away from us. Can we try and switch back on the outside? Can't do it towards turn 2, but going towards turn 3 maybe? Nope, not yet. Perez keeps us behind for now. And he's got DRS going towards turn 4 as well, so he's got the advantage going towards this 4th corner. Going to switch to the inside if we can and try and get to his inside. We're going deep there, and Perez goes dancing back through, tries to switch back if he can, but runs out of room there, gets all out of shape. So P4 once again is ours, a rare Perez mistake in this Grand Prix, which means we come through and reclaim 4th place, and that could be the end of the matter there unless Perez has got anything left for us in the last lap and a half or so. But up front, Hamilton, Verstappen and Leclerc are pulling away on to the last lap now. 1v1 versus Perez for 4th place in this Grand Prix. Of course, last year we lost this position to Max Verstappen on the last lap down in turn 13. Perez gets us at turn 1, going towards that first corner for the last time, diving in once again and squeezing past once more. Perez goes back behind. P4 for us. He might get another shot at us down towards turn 4, but DRS is our possession once again, so we'll try and pull away as best we can. Those medium tyres absolutely destroyed here. I imagine Verstappen's are too, but he's had a fantastic advantage over the course of this race. That RB19 is a monster. We'll have to deal with it for the next 15 rounds as Verstappen rounds the last corner, and by about 15-16 seconds over Lewis Hamilton, runs to the line to win the first race of the season for the first time in this series. Verstappen crosses the line and wins in Bahrain as Logan Sargent comes through a lap behind, and for us though, coming through the last couple of corners here to complete this race. Perez off the last corner, can't quite do it and can't get around us. It'll be P4 for us to kick off our hazard defence. A solid 12 points. Decent day here in Bahrain. Unfortunately, we couldn't quite get on the podium in the end. Leclerc managed to beat us there, but honestly, I'm not too dissatisfied. A good start there. Managed to reacquaint ourselves with this game, and hopefully we'll try and push for our first podium next time out in Australia. But overall, a solid race and a good foundation for the new season.
It was a magnificent race and a drive right out of the top draw to take the win for Red Bull today. Tell me, Ant, how do you think they were able to deliver such an incredible result today?
Well, time management probably played quite a large role in the outcome of this one. As ever, it's not just about speed, it's all about maintaining that speed consistently over a stint, over a race distance. So being able to keep up the lap times while still being smooth on the controls and gentle on the tyres, that's really where the race was won today.
The drivers are en route to the podium as we speak. What a fantastic win for the Red Bull team. They performed exceptionally today, keeping us firmly on the edge of our seats throughout the entirety of the race. Congratulations to everybody at the team.
Verstappen then sets the precedent and wins the first race of the season. Lewis second, so beaten by our teammate in round 1, and Charles Leclerc fights his way past us and finishes in 3rd place. Honestly, I've got a lot of faith this season, but that Verstappen machine is going to be very tough to stop. We saw how dominant he was in real life in 2023, and his game counterpart definitely reflects that. But in terms of today, though, he's beaten us this first time round, so it's going to take a lot of work to get around him in Australia and perhaps win our first race of the season. But on now to the results.
Let's see how the drivers' standings have changed. Max Verstappen now leads the Drivers' Championship. So, Anthony Davidson, who would you rank as your driver of the day?
Max Verstappen seemed to just effortlessly weave through the other drivers today without a care in the world. He was definitely my driver of choice.
Let's move on to the constructors, and Red Bull take over as championship leaders. After an event like that, who knows what the sport has in store for us next time out? Be sure to join us once again as we continue to bring you all the excitement of Formula One.
So we finished then in 4th place. Perez takes home 5th, and it's Oscar Piastri on debut in 6th. Fantastic start for him. Gasly 7th, Ocon 8th, Alonso 9th, and Lance Stroll takes the last point. Good points for Aston Martin now, of course going pointless all of last season. Carlos Sainz only a few tenths off of P10 in the end after that penalty. In terms of championship then, Verstappen leads the way then by 7 points to Hamilton. It's Leclerc 4th. It's the same as the top 10 in terms of results there. No point fastest lap. That gap belonged to Sainz, but obviously as he didn't finish top 10, he can't get that point. But Red Bull lead by 5 points in the constructors to Mercedes, Ferrari 3rd, Alpine 4th, McLaren 5th, and Aston Martin 6th. Williams, Haas, Alfa Romeo, and AlphaTauri all scoreless. But guys, that'll do it for this first episode of F1 Ultimate Career Season 4. Hope you did enjoy it. If you did, make sure to like, share, and subscribe for more F1 content. Have an absolutely fantastic day. I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.